The World Health Organization has appointed an independent panel to give what it's called an honest assessment of the global response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's faced criticism of its handling of the crisis over the past 6 months. On Tuesday, President Donald Trump announced the formal withdrawal of the US from the health body. The WHO has now warned that the virus is spreading at an accelerated rate and that institutions need to review their approach if they hope to contain it. Katie Dartford has this report.
The World Health Organization has announced it's setting up an independent panel to review its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and the response by governments. It comes off the back of a resolution passed by the organization's member states in May to evaluate the leadership of the WHO and the role of the UN system in coordinating the global response.
This is a time for self-reflection, to look at the world we live in and to find ways to strengthen our collaboration as we work together to save lives and bring this pandemic under control.
Former New Zealand Prime Minister Helen Clark and former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf have agreed to head the panel and choose its members. An interim report will be made in November and a full one in May.
Challenging assignment.
The Trump administration has been particularly critical of the World Health Organization's response to the pandemic, with President Donald Trump pulling US funding from the organization in April. On Monday, it also formally notified the UN of its withdrawal from the organization. Katie Dartford for Euronews.
Well, for more on this story, we can speak to Professor Ilona Kickbush. She's a health expert from the Graduate Institute in Geneva. Well, thanks for taking time to speak to us here on the programme. What do you think this panel is hoping to achieve, and how exactly is it going to go about its work?
Well, I think this panel is going to play a very, very important role. It gives a very strong signal that this is not just about health. As you know, a lot of the criticism has been that WHO got caught up in a geopolitical tiff between the United States and China. And I think it's a big signal to now see that the heads of this panel are former heads of state and government. And that also one of them, as you know, is a Nobel Prize winner. People that one can trust, that will truly give an independent assessment of what has happened, and that won't only look at the WHO, but will also look how leaders in countries have responded.
Okay. But can we really have, you mentioned trust there, can we really have a lot of confidence prejudging its results, of course, because the United States and China probably won't be that heavily involved?
Well, I mean, an assessment will, of course, also see how these two countries have responded and how they have contributed. You might know that also at the end of this week, actually tomorrow, WHO mission is going to China to further explore the origin of the virus in Wuhan. So there's a parallel initiative that is going on there. I think we will have to see who we will include, who the two chairs will select to be part of this evaluation exercise. I might add, I was part of the evaluation exercise after the Ebola crisis in 14-15, where WHO did not do a very good job. And we were able to give a very honest assessment, and I must say that based on our recommendations, WHO changed a lot of its procedures and approaches. So I'm hopeful that the very prestigious panel this time around will be able to have similar results.
Well, sure, the global spotlight will be on them, but we know that they're meant to file their preliminary results in November. How quickly do you expect those results to be acted on?
Well, it depends on the types of things that need to be done. I mean, the Director General already identified what he calls some low-hanging fruit that relate to the international health regulations and some other issues. But you're quite right that the recommendations will then need political negotiation. There are things that WHO as an organization, as a secretariat, will be able to do quite quickly, and that's also what we saw after Ebola, when a new operational program was established. But of course, a number of political things that might relate to funding, increasing the regular contributions of countries, that include revising the international health regulations, that include cooperation with other agencies and bodies, for example, in biosecurity, in economic development. Those, of course, will need time. But I'm quite sure that what WHO needs to do as a secretariat, as an organization, can be done quite quickly, because also we have strong support for the WHO from a number of European countries, and particularly the German presidency right now, that is also pushing for reform, but is also giving support to implement the changes.
Professor Ilona Kickbusch from the Graduate Institute in Geneva, thanks for joining us on the programme.